Hello everyone, my name is Endor, and today it's time to finally showcase my custom Yarnaby plush. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, because it really helps show your support for the channel. Thank you all so very much. And now, let's get into the video. And here he is, the plush I've been working on for weeks, and trust me, the head was actually not the most difficult part, but we'll get to that later. So, let's take a look at our custom Yarnaby over here. He's got his 4 legs. His body is covered in yarn, of course. And this is what it looks like on the back, in case you're curious. Let's turn him over. My set is not big enough for how big I actually ended up making him. I did not expect him to end up this big. But you know what? I don't mind it. The only problem is just kind of getting it to fit in one set. But yes, there he is. Yarn covered body, the yarn mane, and of course, just like he's supposed to, an opening mouth head thing. So, you might be wondering, how exactly did I go about making Yarnaby? And trust me, it was not an easy process. Took a lot of work. Actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this right now. Actually, I think I already did. The head was not the most difficult part. It was just the most time-consuming part. The most difficult part was actually the legs. These legs gave me a lot of pain, and there's actually wires in them. Although, at the end of the day, the wires don't matter. But let me talk you through the step-by-step process of how I ended up making Yarnaby. Alright, when I started making Yarnaby, the first thing I wanted to do was make the head, because I knew it was going to be a very unique part of him. So, what I ended up doing was, it was around Halloween time when I started making Yarnaby. So I just had one random candy paper plate, and I put it on some cardboard, and I stenciled it out, and then I cut out 2 pieces of cardboard, and that's what ultimately is right behind this red. It's the foundation for the head. And after that, there's more cardboard. In fact, you can kind of see when I poke, there's some cardboard here, but here's where there's not cardboard. It's a cardboard sort of half circle cylinder for both sides of the head, so that, it'll be able to keep its nice shape once the yellow is put on top. And then there's some stuffing on the inside of the head. I'm not sure why, now that I think about it. I guess it's to give it some better strength, so it doesn't kind of just crumple in on itself. And I'm pretty sure it paid off, because this thing is not gonna crumple in. I'm squeezing right now, so that's good. Next, what I ended up doing was, also, I think I have a picture of this. On one side of the head, the cardboard just has some random doodles. I don't know why, but just know that there is doodles inside of Yarnaby's head. It's his thoughts. It's his Playtime Co. thoughts. But anyway, next, covered the bottom part in the red, and then covered the top with the yellow. And as you can see here, there's part of it right there, and also some glue for that later. Part of what was stitched to put the yellow together on top of the head. So that's very good. And then, of course, after that, just some simple decoration for his eyes. It's just a bunch of circles, big white circle, black circle, little white circle, and same thing for his teeth. I guess the fake teeth, you could call it. And then the same thing on this side, this here. And after that, when it comes to this, the the teeth on the inside, his real teeth, I didn't want to do it overcomplicated. I wanted to make it simple and cuter. Kind of like, I remember when I posted images, sneak peeks of this, people kept saying it looked like some kind of character from Doors, Seeker maybe, I think is what it's called. And yeah, I see it. It does kind of look like that thing from Doors. But also, underneath a couple of these teeth, there's actually some magnets. Right here and here, those two meet together, and down here and here. And at first I was worried that they wouldn't be that strong, but they actually work quite well. Let's see if you can get an idea there. Well, not like that, but it actually helps keep it nice and together for the most part. I mean, if you grab one side and lift it, yeah, it's going to split apart. But in general, it's just to keep it give it a nice bit of extra sturdiness, just so it stays together. So yeah, so that's kind of the general idea of how I made the head of Yarnaby. So let's move on to the next part, which was the body. All right, when it comes to the body, of course, it's going to be a little difficult to see since now it's covered in yarn for the most part. But here is where there was also how I attached the head to what would eventually become the body over here. So coming from this red, inner mouth thing that Yarnaby has is also square pieces of fabric with cardboard in the middle that was connected to the head via, it was just how I cut out the shape. And then those were attached together. And then after, I ended up rolling a whole bunch of yellow fabric. You can kind of see it there. It's literally just a whole bunch of rolls of yellow fabric over and over and over again. They were initially, the squares are just like this big on the inside over there. So I just kept rolling fabric over and over and over and over again to the point where it got to around this, width, which is, dozens upon dozens of pieces of fabric just rolled over and over and over again. And then I did some sewing actually to help them stay better together, sew them nice so they can stay nice and sturdy. And then after that, also put some hot glue in between them. You can kind of see some of it there. And I think maybe if I turn them over, sorry, Yarnaby. Woo! If I turn them over, you can kind of see some more there. You see it, right? The hot glue. Yep. All right. And as you can see, the hot glue has been doing a mess on some of my fingers because I kept getting some burns, but it's okay. Hot glue burns are worth it. Did I say buns? Burns. It's fine. It's worth it for the finished product. But anyway, after that was done and sorted, I just took a nice length, kind of just a rectangular big piece of fabric, yellow fabric, and I just wrapped it around, and it got to around here is where it basically ended, and I just kind of sewed it together awkwardly because it didn't matter how it looked. It just mattered how strong it was. And after that, I sewed it together, before or after putting in a bunch of stuffing to, get them all nice and fluffy. And then just a bit of an awkward looking thing at the back. I think I took a picture of it. And it didn't matter how it looks because it's going to be covered in yarn anyway. So yeah, that's how I ended up making the body of Yarnaby. And then after that, I decided to start putting on the yarn on his body because, Yarnaby kind of needs the yarn. And for the most part, all that really entailed was just a bunch of hot glue and just a really time-consuming process. Just, measure out and cut some yarn, put it on the head, and then hot glue part of it on the body. Just over and over and over and over and over and over again. You get it. That's the same thing for most of the head. In fact, all of the head, really. It's the same thing for all of his head. And you can kind of see how it looks like when it gets closer to the mouth. But same thing, hot glued there. It's nice and sturdy. And when it comes to the yarn on the body, it's the same thing. Just a bunch of hot glue. You can probably see it. Oh yeah, and also there's the end. This is where the yellow fabric has its stitching. But anyway, yeah, the yarn is just nice and hot glued there. Very simple. And then after that is when these things come into play. The freaking legs. All right, so when it came to making the legs, it seems simple, but the thing is, the part that just gave me a bit of a headache was finding the best execution for this, because the way I was making Yarnaby was not to give him a sort of lion body. It was some more give him a cartoonish, plush, huggable type of look. And also, judging it based on that one image, probably the most famous image of Yarnaby's render in game, which is the reveal render, where he kind of had his hands next to his head, and I wanted to make sure he could actually do that in the plush form and still look nice and adorable. So here we have the main color of his body, the yellow. It's the same story for all the legs basically. So let me just focus on this one. So for all the legs, it's just nice and yellow stitching, and you know, a pattern of also incorporating his sort of secondary color, I guess, which is an off-white. And it was just kind of a long, time-consuming process, and I have a horrible memory and a horrible focus, so it was just freaking boring. But it was fine. It worked out in the end. So after that, you know, after all the sewing, and it wasn't difficult because it was something like, oh, it's very hard to do. It's just very hard to sit through the process of doing it. You know, but otherwise, I'm glad it came out the way it did. So then once these pieces were put together, then they were stitched onto the body. And also, for extra sturdiness, some hot glue along the bottom parts. You can see it's the same with all the legs. There's hot glue, just giving it some extra sturdiness to the body, just to make sure it doesn't fall off. And after that, I also started attaching yarn to the bottom of the body, because of course I need to put the legs first before putting the yarn. And so that process was basically the same. It just involved cutting a bit more yarn, so then you can put yarn there and then cut and then put yarn here. You know, it's basically the same process. And then ending off the creation of Yarnaby was just finishing what it would look like on the backside, because I just had this whole mess of yarn. And initially what I was kind of wanting to do was have all the yarn kind of circle together like a spiral in the back, but that was going to be ending up way too fancy and time consuming for what it's worth. So starting with the yellow, I just kind of put hot glue on the backside and then lay them down, and then, you know, to orange, to red, to purple, to blue, to green, you know, just kind of gluing them together over each other. You can kind of see a little bit here. Not sure what happened there, but otherwise that was basically the process that ended off the creation of Yarnaby here. And he just looks so adorable, doesn't he? I just love the way this guy came out. And now, before we end off the video, how about we compare Yarnaby size-wise to a couple of other official Poppy Playtime plushies, just to get a general idea of how big this guy ended up being. So, let's get into that. And there we have it. That's my custom Yarnaby plush. This was my first time ever making a custom plush of this scale and magnitude and detail. And you know what? I'm very happy with how he turned out. I absolutely love the way he looks. I love how huggable he is, and geez, because of how big he is super duper huggable. So I love that. He's adorable. I love how, you know, soft he is, how good he looks, honestly. Don't mean to toot my own horn, but you gotta admit, that looks pretty good. Don't you agree, Yarnaby? See, he agrees. But you know what? Enough about what me and Yarnaby here thinks. I want to know what you, the viewers, think. Let me know what you think of my custom Yarnaby. If you think you might want to attempt making one similar, and if you think maybe you want to see me do a comparison between my custom and the official Yarnaby when that releases, well, I guess let me know down in the comments. And remember to make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because it really helps out the channel and it really helps show your support. So, without further ado, that's everything. And well, goodbye everyone.